What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. Today, we are looking ahead to the best bets for the really good UFC 316 coming up this weekend. I know we've been waiting a while for like a really good card to come on. We had a dry enough May in terms of mixed martial arts. The PFL was on a break. The UFC missed the weekend, which is odd these days. And we had obviously a cancelled main event in the middle of that as well. So we're back. We're back now, and we've a big UFC card, and PFL is starting back as well in a couple of weeks' time. So lot to talk about, lot to unpack, and a lot to get to over the next couple of weeks. And we'll start with a few bets, and hopefully we can earn a bit of money for the upcoming weeks ahead. Although the PFL now, see, they're only charging $25 a ticket. Yes, sure. Better off not betting. Just keeping the money for the tickets. But I digress. As always, please leave your best bets in the comment section below. Let me know, and if there's a really good one, we will give it a shout out next week. I always say that at the end of the show, after I give all my bets when people have tuned out. I should really be saying that at the start of the show. So here we go. This is your opportunity. The pay-per-views are always the most listened to, most watched shows anyway. So before you even watch this, pause, go, here's my bet. I found Sean O'Malley round 5 knockout, or whatever your bet is. Let us know in the comment section below. Right, but before we get to UFC 316, we have to look back at last week's bets, as we always do. And not a bad week again. Last week, obviously, we had Blanchfield to win by decision. And that fight didn't happen, unfortunately, as we know, the last minute pullout. But of our other 4 bets, 2 hit, and they were pretty good. So we had all plus money bets last week. Ryan Shelley, a plus 195 hit. He got a win over in Cage Warriors, and it was a pretty solid win as well. Won by submission in a fight that he was winning up until then. And we had Ketlin Vieira at even money. I think she went out to actually plus 110, if I'm not mistaken. So a good bet either way, and dominated that fight. I'm pretty happy with the breakdown of that one. I think I got it exactly right. She was she's not the taller fighter, but she's the bigger fighter in there. She fights bigger, and against the person, like her opponent was, that usually fights bigger herself. I feel like Ketlin Vieira always wins those fights, unless it's, someone really, really good like Kayla Harrison, or let's say Amanda Nunes or someone like that. So a good win for her there. And the one we didn't get is Ludwig Klein. I thought Gamera kind of might have been on the way down or the way out, but it was a good performance. I think people are getting maybe a little bit too blown away with it. Now, having said that, I got a little bit too blown away with him and his performance against Hooker, so I don't think either of us are right there. But I think, this is probably 1 or 2 fights maybe too early to be betting on someone like Ludwig Klein, but credit to Gamrot, he got it right. And our flyer of the week wasn't even near Kurt Holloway by submission. He actually got submitted, so that was a pretty bad call. But when Levitt went in to take him down, I was like, the guillotine's there, go for it. And he didn't. But it was, that was... My flyers have been terrible. Feel free to ignore my flyers at all costs. I've hit 1 this year from 17, so that's not great. But on the overall bets, we're at 50% now, so that's pretty good. 41 from 82, so exactly straight down the middle, 50%. We've been pretty good the last couple of weeks. Obviously, a couple of fights that didn't happen, and we hit 2 out of 3 bets. So the last 4 bets that hit, plus 195, plus 100, plus 105, minus 140, which is not bad at all. And you look the week before that, we had an evens bet, we had a minus 138 bet. So it's not only good bets, but good prices as well. So let's keep that going. We have only 1 non-plus money bet this week. And let's start off with that. We'll get straight into it. And it's also the main event, bet 1, Dvalishvili versus O'Malley. And I'll be honest, this is one of the ones where I've spoken a lot about this fight and watched back that fight a couple of times. And my conclusion kind of comes down to looking at Sherdog, to be honest. And the bet, first of all, is Merab Dvalishvili to win by decision at minus 143. So that's the only minus money bet. Not a wholly bad price, but Merab to win by decision at minus 143. And the stat I'm going to tell you about here is one we can all look up very, very quickly on the Sherdog homepage. I'm sure it's up here alongside me right now. But you look at Dvalishvili's record, 19-4, 15 decision wins, 3 decision losses. So 18 of his 23 fights have gone to a decision. Like, the likelihood of this fight going to decision is absolutely huge. What is it? Only 5 of those 23 fights in his career have not gone to a decision. That is an enormous amount. Like Sean O'Malley, he's had a lot of finishes, a lot of knockouts. That's the way he fights. But he's also had 6 decisions in his career. You look at his last 4 fights, 3 of them have gone to a decision. Aljamain Sterling, obviously the only one that didn't recently. You know, he obviously lost to Merab last time by decision, beat Vera by decision, and beat Jan by decision as well. So, and obviously that was a close one as well. He could have lost that one by the split decision. So, to go further that's not reason enough to think that's good enough bet, and he won the last time, he'll win again. I've kind of been given a bit of a devil's advocate argument about this fight over the last while. I did obviously the podcast here, the top fights of the month, talked a little bit about it on Severe MMA and on another podcast here not too long ago. And I kind of made the point that O'Malley probably did better in that first fight than people remember. Of the last 3 rounds, he won 2 of them and 2 judges' scorecards, which is very unusual against Merab. And I stand by that analysis as well, that this isn't a foregone conclusion by any means. Like, when you look at the price of this fight just straight up, Merab minus best price minus 275, upwards of minus 300 in some places. O'Malley plus 230. You know, you would think that he's a pretty sizable, pretty big favourite. And, you know, he is obviously in terms of the betting. But by watching back that first fight, you can see, like, it's one of those fights that when you watched it at the time, when you think back about it, you think like Merab kind of ran away with it. Because at certain points of the fight he did, but at other points he really didn't. You know, those 2 rounds that O'Malley was able to win, like, they were tighter, let's put it this way, than the Merab rounds. But MMA scored round by round. It works like that. If there was one more tight round, O'Malley could have won the fight. You know, so he wasn't a million miles away at all. So that was kind of my devil's advocate argument. But having said that, one thing I always keep in mind when we're entering a fight like this, right, that both guys might be slightly better than last time. Both guys still in their prime. Both guys, you know, relatively young. Although, you know, people always talk about the curse of 35 or whatever. Merab, he just turned 34 3 months ago, like, so he's not that old. You know, O'Malley's 30 as well. He'll be 31 by the time the year turns. So they're only 2.5, 3 years apart. It's not a big thing at all. But everyone's looking at, look at all the changes O'Malley has made. He's a new camp. He's not on social media. His hair is black. It could be anything, right? And it's all, that's good. You see McGregor saying, this is reminiscent to me going for DS2. But like, Merab also has had time since that fight. No, he fought Umar Nurmagomedov in January. It's not been that long since it. It wasn't that long. It was only September, the fight before that. But at the same time, he prepared for an Umar Nurmagomedov fight. He fought that fight differently, you know, to a lot of his fights. And to be fair, the O'Malley fight, there was a little bit of it as well. There wasn't as much of his mad wrestling. Like, Merab has improved as a fighter. But the one thing I would say about Merab, like, okay, I would say the same thing about Merab as I would say about O'Malley, funnily enough, going into this fight, that they both need to get to what brought him to the dance, right? And it's wrestling for Merab and striking for O'Malley. Now, that might seem a very straightforward thing to say, but if you look at the last couple of fights for Merab, he hasn't been wrestling as much. You know, before it was 150 takedowns, it might only be 15 or something like that, which is a big difference. It's a big change in style, look, which you're going to have to do for the higher level opponents. But having said that, what if he comes out and he fights that old style again against O'Malley? It doesn't fight a bit like he fought in the first fight, right? That's something. That was the point I was making. That's something we don't really think about. We always think about O'Malley's changes. What can O'Malley do different to the first fight? Or Merab's just going to fight the exact same and O'Malley will go out and change something and beat him. Doesn't always work that way. The other guy can do something different too, and I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will, because at the end of the day, like I said it again, I think O'Malley really, really, really needs to be even more of a sniper. Now, that is his game, right? That is his game. But, like, that isn't a huge deviation from the way he fought the first time. Now, if there was someone like Dan Hardy or Luke Thomas or whoever on here, it'll bring you the small little intricacies of the game. Of course, different ways of entering, switching stances, throwing combinations and in different order, whatever it might be, different things to give different looks to make Merab move in different ways. Of course, will be different. But at the end of the day, it is a cadence he wants to fight at. That will not be massively different from the cadence he wanted to fight at the first time. But Merab has the ability to change that cadence massively, right? Instead of getting one takedown, holding the guy down, he can take down, up, like he did so many times before. The other thing I would, and that's the main reason I'm picking Merab, I think. I actually think it's going to be a lot different of a fight than the first one. And I haven't said all of what I just said. I actually think, and this might sound a bit wild here, right? But I actually think the biggest difference maker between the last fight and this fight is that it's not on in the sphere. That sphere, in my opinion, blinded people. And I don't mean literally, I kind of mean figuratively. Everyone, a lot of apart from the Bahamundes fight was a great fight, but all the other fights were terrible. Remember, it was a bad card, and I didn't feel like O'Malley fought well. I didn't feel like Dvalishvili fought well. I think this is going to be a lot different of a fight, and for O'Malley, you're probably thinking, oh, that's a good thing, but I don't think it will be. And I think we're going to see a lot of takedowns. We're going to see O'Malley doing very well to get back up, but that actually being a negative for him, because the more times you get up, the more times you can get taken down, and that is what Dvalishvili at his best is. So there you go. That's we've taken up nearly half the show in the first bet, but there you go. Bet number one, Dvalishvili wins by decision, -143. I'm going for the other title fight here, and honestly, my pick here is based more on the price than anything else. I'm going for Kayla Harrison to win by submission at +185. I just think this is a fantastic price altogether. Like, let me just give you a few of the other prices here. So the straight up best price, Pena +525. I was thinking about that as one of my flyers. Like, I don't think this is by any means a foregone conclusion. -689 is the best price. -649 is the best price you get at Kayla Harrison as I look at it here now. She's upwards of -770 in some places. I don't think, like, it could be that fight, right? It could be takedown straight away, judo throw, gone. It could be that. But it also could be a Juliana Pena fight, because, I'll probably end up giving another 15-minute breakdown here, but I just think Kayla Harrison, especially with this massive weight cut, is not what she, is hyped to be. And I actually don't think that's much of a fault of her own. I think she's been around for a long, long time competing in different sports. These weight cuts are, 3 or 4 in a row now. Not easy at all. But anyway, back to the prices here for a second. Harrison get to win by TKO at +320 was a pretty good price in there. But as I said, the one I've gone for is the submission. Harrison win by decision, I think, is also a possibility, and that was +220. But I again, looking at the stats here a little bit, submissions are key. The Venezuelan vixen Juliana Pena has lost twice by submission. She's been knocked out once, but the knockout was a good long time ago, back in 2012. Like, her losses since then, 1 by decision, 2 by decision, 2 by submission. One was to Manny Nunes, but Jermaine Durandamy submitted her, and Valentina Shevchenko submitted her. Now, that's a pretty good sign that the submission might be on. If you look at Harrison, she submitted Holly Holm. She's a good few submissions, obviously over in the PFL as well. I think there's a good chance of it happening. I think a key here is one part I was really thinking of, like, if you're Kayla Harrison in a fight like this, right, where, okay, if we think worst case scenario for Kayla Harrison here in terms of how the fight goes, not necessarily maybe in terms of the result, we'll get to that in a second, but worst case scenario is they have a fight for a few rounds, she gets tired and Pena starts pushing her back. That's the method of victory for Juliana Pena. That's the method to defeat, the road to defeat for Kayla Harrison. How do you stop that from happening? Because that can happen, right? Let's say that happens after 3.5 rounds, and it could be 3.25 rounds of domination from Kayla Harrison, right? Or just 3.25 rounds of winning from Kayla Harrison. How do you mitigate that? I think you mitigate that by being what you are, judo. Get her to the fence, put her on her back. Get her to the fence, put her on her back. Go for submissions, go. And look, again, not rocket science to say that Kayla Harrison might try to take her down, but Kayla Harrison has been fighting a lot on the feet, I think, in recent fights. There's been a lot of waiting around, less waiting around, more getting. Like, Kayla Harrison is twice, 3, 4 times the athlete that Pena is. And no disrespect to Pena, she's as game as a rabbit. She really, really is. But Harrison just has to impose her will, impose that game plan very, very early. And I think if she does, it will have to just involve takedowns, throws, getting her to the ground. And if she does that, the submission just has to be there. So I was honestly shocked to see that price. I know the decision. See, my issue with picking Kayla Harrison by decision is that I think if it turns, if it turns bad for her, I think she'll probably end up losing late, right? And if it goes good for her, I think she'll have to get the finish. And the knockout, I just think Juliana Pena is one of those people who's teak tough, and it'll be very hard to knock her out. It's one of those ones you beat her and beat her and beat her, and then she'll end up, giving up. I don't mean giving up the neck because she's getting beaten, not giving up or anything like that. But you know what I mean. Like, the neck will be there, and I think it's a great price, plus 185. If you like the knockout, what did I say it was? Plus 220. That's not a bad price at all either. I was looking at Harrison inside the distance, plus 120 as well. I think that's pretty good, but I went for the submission. I like that price. Let's go. Right, next bet. The next 2 bets are slight cop-outs of bets, but they're both good prices, so I'm going for it. So I'm going for and this one again. So, okay, this is not a cop-out of a bet because it's unusual for both of these guys. So I'm going for the Luque versus Holland fight to go to a decision, right? A plus 200, which, again, I've gone for a lot of good prices today. No one give out to me for my for giving minus money bets or anything like that. But the reason I say this, and the reason I think this will go along, is because for both of these guys, it's very hard to know where they are, like, as MMA fighters right now. Like, you look at Kevin Holland, he's 32 years of age, but he's 41 fights, and like lost to Gunny, won against Gunny last time, lost to the Ritter, lost to the Lids, beat Olajechuk, lost to MVP, lost to Delamadena, beat Chiesa, beat Ponzinibbio, then lost 2 fights, then won 2 fights, then lost to, all over the place. Vicente Luque, I thought he was done and dusted a couple of years ago, but then he beats Rafael Dos Anjos, well, maybe not a couple of years ago, but a few years ago. Like that Tyron Woodley fight when he won it, I was like, okay. And then the Bilal Muhammad fight, the Jeff Neal, I was like, okay, we have issues here. But, Timber Garimbo, the way he beat him so easily last time out, I'm like, okay. And even Buckley, I know he went a round and a half with him, but he didn't look horrendous at times in that fight. And I just think they're kind of evenly matched up. I might be wrong. Say as well, right? A big part of this is, and okay, here's 2 steps looking at the records. So the fight to go to a decision, Kevin Holland has had 12 fights go to a decision, right? Okay, he's had a lot of fights. That means 28 of his fights haven't gone to a decision. Not a whole lot either. Only 9 for the silent assassin Vicente Luque. That means 24 of them 10 with the draw as well. So the stats go against it, but sometimes as well, the stats aren't. They don't always tell you what happens. Like the last fight for Kevin Holland. See, I'm kind of looking at that Gunny Nelson fight as well. I'm kind of thinking to myself, Gunny Nelson and Vicente Luque, are they miles different in terms of the fighters they are? Like, I think, obviously, both very, very good on the ground. Gunny probably like a tad slower and more deliberate of a all-round fighter, but of a striker as well. But he can be dangerous. His karate game is dangerous and he can hit hard. Whereas Luque is more, obviously more punch and power, I would say, and more deliberate. But I feel like Holland can maybe stay away from that and maybe neutralize that on the feet and maybe neutralize it on the ground as well. Now, my big issue here is, am I going to pick Kevin Holland to win? And am I going to pick Kevin Holland to win at minus 270? Absolutely not. And then it went to like, am I picking Vicente Luque to win at plus 230? Maybe not either. But I, like, could, like, not picking the draw here or anything, but like, is this a draw type of fight? Like, is this an even fight where at the end of the day it's kind of a split decision type? I think it might be. Now, okay, anyone could get caught in a submission or a big shot. Both have been finished, obviously. But I just feel like they both might even each other out a little bit, and it might be a little bit swayed at the end. Like the last time I had the bet on Holland to beat Gunny Nelson via decision, just because, there might be a takedown in there and Gunny's hard to submit. Maybe we see something similar here. No, Kevin Holland doesn't always take lads down, right? But when he does, he's pretty good on top. He's been submitted 4 times in his career, but he also, beat the living hell out of Jacare on top. That's the type of thing he can do. But again, you never know Kevin Holland. You never know what Luque. Maybe both of them will show up, or maybe both of them will kind of freeze a little bit, and maybe it'll be a decision, right? I might not be giving everyone here the the greatest the greatest opinion, or the great we mightn't have as much hope by my breakdown here, but I do like that price of plus 200, so we're gonna go with that one. Right, bet number 4, the same bet as last time, fight to go decision, Pyfer and Gastelum. Now, this one is a little bit different, and again, kind of going against the grain a little bit in terms of maybe how people would look at these fighters, or how they would, statistically break it down. You look at Gastelum, he's a good few finishes, a good few decisions in his career as well, no doubt about it, but like, he's 11 wins inside the distance, been submitted 3 times, but has 14 of his fights have gone to a decision. 8 wins and 6 losses. You look at Pyfer, the other side of it now, obviously he's 13-3, only 2 decisions in his career. One of them was 2 fights ago against Jack Hermanson, and his first real uptick in opponents, and that's kind of what I'm going for here again. The other part and the other stat here, which I think is very, very, very telling when I'm giving you my pick, Joe Pyfer, 69% of his wins via knockout, 9 knockouts in 13 fights, right? Kelvin Gastelum, 9 losses, never been knocked out, 6 decisions, 3 submissions. So Pyfer's won a few fights by submission, at an arm triangle against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and as a few outside of the UFC as well. But I don't think he or anyone would call him a big submission artist or anything like that. I think that's fair to say. So you look at the betting, who's the favorite, and it's Joe Pyfer at upwards of minus 420 in some places, best price minus 380. You're thinking, is he going to knock a guy out that's never been knocked out before? Kelvin Gastelum at 33, who won his last fight, won 2 of his last 3 fights. He fought Sean Brady, and okay, he got submitted, but he didn't get knocked out in that fight either. Has fought some top guys, Robert Whittaker, Jared Cannonier, in the last 3 or 4 years. Went to decision, lost, okay, with him, but, beat Chris Curtis, beat Daniel Rodriguez, both by decision as well. I think it's not impossible, but more unlikely that Pyfer knocks him out. It's very unlikely that Pyfer submits him, but Pyfer is a big favourite to win. Vis-a-vis Pyfer by decision. Plus 104. Plus 1. Is it plus 104? Let me check it again. Plus 104. I like that a lot. Actually, sorry, I tell a lie. I don't have a Pyfer to win by decision. I have just the fight to go to the decision at plus 104. Even better. What? I'll just give you the price on Pyfer to win by decision. That might be an even better price. We might look back at it. So Pyfer to win by decision is best price plus 165, plus 150 in some places. There is the possibility that Kelvin Gastelum outbox him as well. Not a huge amount of difference between those two prices. I like the plus 104. I'm going to stick with it, and I'm going to go with that. Right, we have the flyer of the week, and then we have the pay-per-view parlay. The pay-per-view parlay is a bit of a flyer pay-per-view parlay, right? And I'll explain that in a second. But to the flyer first, I was shocked when I saw this price. Now, the reason that I was shocked, the reason I'm giving the pay-per-view parlay flyer is because I'm not sure this price will hold up. So I'm giving you this price here. It's I'm going to tell you where it's from, and I usually don't I usually don't do it. It was from, actually no free ads. I'm not going to throw it out there. But anyway, we'll leave that. Patchy mix via submission. It's down here, right? Okay, it's down here as plus 380. Now, in other places, let me just plus 295, plus 305. Let me just see the movement on it. It was, so it was upwards of plus 390. You can check this out on bestfightodds.com. Today, as I look at it here at 501, yesterday at 501, it says plus 380. So the price was there. The price might go, but I'll stick with it as long as it's over. Flyer should be kind of big. It should be around plus 300 at least. But again, I gave you the pay-per-view flyers, so don't get me. But Patchy mix by submission plus 380. That's the flyer of the week. I'll be honest. Before I gave this, I watched probably more tape on these two lads than I have on a main card UFC fight in a long time. And it's not that I didn't know Patchy mix. Obviously everyone knows I covered the Bellator and PFL cards here in Sherdog for the last 3 or 4 years, so I've covered all of his fights. But I just think he'll win this fight. Like the straight up price on this, Patchy mix minus 163. Sorry, he is the favorite. I'm plus 155, plus 130 for Bautista. Very, very close fight. What I mean to say was, I think he'll win it by submission. Now, again, Bautista's only been submitted once in his 17 fight career. That was a good long time ago against Corey Sandhagen in 2019. Patchy mix has been on an unbelievable run. 13 submissions in 20 fights, 21 in his career. Now, I didn't have the best outing last time out, but I went and I watched a bit of that fight against Magomedov, and it's one of those fights that there's two things you can look at from it. If you're Bautista, one of which is you need to drag him into the type of striking matchup that Magomedov did, because that's where Bautista's really good, like fighting off the back foot, catching lads, waiting for lads to come in, or the lads that actually go forward an awful lot, taking them out of it. Patchy mix from the South doesn't really come forward a whole lot, but Bautista is really good at kind of egging lads in and encountering them. The other thing would be, say, the lack of takedowns in that fight. Now, the issue with that is that's not going to happen again. And if you're Bautista and you're trying to strike you're trying to strike against Mix in a similar way that Magomedov did, it's a fool's errand maybe, because we know how good Magomedov is as a wrestler. That's why Patchy Mix's wrestling game wasn't there in that fight like it was in others. When back I watched the Sergio Pettis fight, he took him down over and over again, put him against the fence, lifted him up. I think he can do that to Mario Bautista, really. Sergio Pettis, Rafi and Stotts, the first time against Magomedov submitted him as well, submitted James Gallagher, submitted Alberto Morales, submitted some very, very good guys. rear naked choked Sergio Pettis. I think, and one thing is, before the Magomedov fight, the second fight, a lot, my analysis, other people's analysis was that the wrestling of Mix had improved an awful lot with the striking. Obviously, he's engaged, or is he married to Tatiana Suarez, who's an amazing wrestler. And it's come along an awful lot. So if he can take this fight to the ground, he's going to be the favorite to win by submission, because he's such an amazing submission artist. He's absolutely brilliant on the ground. And as good as Batista is, beat Jose Aldo, beat Ricky Simon, and all of that, I think it's going to be real tough for him to live with Patchy Mix on the ground. Now, if Mix can take him down and he's forced to come forward, I'd actually favour Batista to win. I think Batista's really good in there, and as much as Mix's striking has improved, I think he'll have problems with the matchup in the way it is, in a similar way to Magomedov, but Batista can be more dangerous. Like, he throws those kind of step-in flying knees and things as well. He's very, very good there. Patchy Mix throws those step-in flying knees as well, but in a different sort of way. For Batista, he mightn't want to do that against Mix, obviously, because of how good the ground game is. But go with me for a second. So, all in all, I think the takedown will be there. I think Mix will take him down, and I think Mix will submit him. So, plus 380 for the flyer of the week. Love that one. Right, pay-per-view parlay. Let's run through this pretty quickly. It's plus 994. And here are the 4 bets in the parlay. 1, Merab, minus 275. We talked about that. Don't need to talk about it again. 2, Kayla Harrison, minus 649. Again, we talked about Kayla. 3, Kevin Holland, minus 275. I just sided with Kevin Holland there because I think he was more mature and put on a better performance against Gunny Nelson last time out. Again, I think it's a similar enough matchup. I think if he goes in and does what he does, and that did in that fight and does it again in this fight, I think he can win. And the last one I've gone for is what's made it plus 994, because it's plus 410. And it's Ariane Lipski as it was, but Ariane de Silva now at plus 410 against Kang Wong. Now, if anyone knows Kang Wong, I bet it bigger on her first time and she lost. Then I bet it against her the second time she won. Third time's a charm. It has to be. I just think, looking at Kang Wong, she's obviously an excellent fighter who got beaten by like a very average fighter a few months ago. Now, Ariane Lipski's on a kind of a bad roll, but if you look at Ariane Lipski's career, I've been following her for a long time. Ariane Lipski, again, is actually a bit like Kang Wong. I have a terrible, actually, now that I think about this, it's probably a bad way. I have a terrible record of picking Ariane Lipski fight right. And this will probably be wrong again, but go with me here for a second. Like, Ariane Lipski has a history of losing fights that she probably shouldn't lose, and then bouncing back and beating people in a kind of a surprise, right? She has, not always done that, don't get me wrong, but a large part of her career, she has been, is proving the doubters wrong might be a little bit of a stretch, but like, she lost against Molly McCann, for God's sake, and Joanne Wood, and came back and won 2 fights in a row. She lost another 2 fights in a row, came back and beat Mandy Baum. Lost to Priscilla Cachoeira, my God almighty. And came back and won 3 times in a row. She beat JJ Aldrich, she beat Casey O'Neill. Right? And now she's lost 2 in a row against Karina Silva and Jasmine Dazavicius, 2 very, very good fighters. And she's fighting Kang Wong now. Don't threaten me with a good time. Don't threaten me with a good time. Ariane Lipski, again, is someone who wasn't the best ground fighter in the world a few years ago, but now she's 4 submissions on her ledger. She submitted Casey O'Neill. Kang Wong, we saw her getting submitted by Gabriela Fernandez, who had no business even in there. Never mind submitting, she was like a minus 1200 or something. Underdog, favorite, whatever it was. I'm going with it. That's the pay-per-view parlay. Plus 994, nearly 10-1. Merab, Kayla, Kevin, Ariane. There you go. That's the pay-per-view parlay. The bets again, just to recap. Dvalishvili by decision, minus 143. Harrison, submission, plus 185. plus 200 for the Luque and Holland fight to go decision, plus 104 for the Pyfer Gastelum fight to go decision, and Mix to win by submission at plus 380. All right, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. Please bet responsibly. As I said, leave your bet for the week in the comment section below. Give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe. And until next time, my name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.